This is Noah Schechter, writer of episode 805, The Fribourg Confidence. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
The only warblers I know about are the ones that sing in church. Welcome to everyone to the award-winning The Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. Troy, with all due respect, your presence on this podcast is beginning to make my eyes water. Thanks for joining us yet again for number 140 on the Blacklist, The Fribourg Confidence, written by Noah Schechter and directed by Andrew McCarthy. And still yet again, I don't hear Hazy Shade of Winter in the mix when he's directing and Spader's on. I just feel like it should be, but whatever. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. Or Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, if you really want to throw in a little filmdom there.
Are your eyes watering because I make you cry? Is that what you're saying?
Just the fact that I'm here with you every week makes me cry.
Welcome, everybody. If you're new to the podcast, we basically break it down in a few ways. We start off with a question from last week and get all of your feedback on that particular question with our profiling question of the week. Then we move into this week's case profile and everything we learned about in this episode. We move on then to Red's Rhetoric, where we hear wise words and tales from Red himself before going to Special Agent Intel with all of you, the fans, and what you thought of the Fribourg Confidence or anything else on your mind from the Mailbag, Twitters, and otherwise.
I just want to give a shout out to Barstool Sports and tell them they've got very angry writers on their staff for their little Blacklist op-ed. Man, what an angry piece. What an angry piece. And if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't see it, you don't want to search for it.
Well, technically, those guys are known for that, aren't they not? Isn't that their shtick?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But it's just like, if you don't want to, just stop watching it then. It's not that hard. Just stop watching if you don't like it. Move on.
Unless you're recording a podcast and then you're required to watch it. At least I make you watch it anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Well, let's get into it because we've got a lot to get into.
Yeah, what was the profiling question last week, Aaron?
Oh, profiling question. I forgot. What is on the flash drive from the archive? Carly Calais said a list of spies within the U.S. government. Okay. I feel like we've had that one before, didn't we?
I think so, too. Brian Dalton said the secrets of the island. Which one, Brian? Which one?
Do you mean the Lost Island? Because they're never going to tell you what those secrets are. It's all still a secret. Yeah, I said it. Nate Trillo. It will be like the fulcrum. Seemingly important, but ultimately ignored and inconsequential.
Wayne Wages said, what actually happened at Chernobyl? That's a little different.
Phil Houghton said, cat memes. I like that.
I like that, yeah. Who is feeding that cat, by the way, in Red's Flat? Where's he been for 6 seasons?
I hope nobody came back. That's what I hope. I hope nobody even remembered that cat. I don't like cats.
Michelle Jones said, I know what's on the Sikorsky archive. Red's constantly talking about food or cooking food. It's his favorite recipes. What could be of more importance to Red? A good tiramisu cures a lot of troubles.
Okay, that would be kind of cool if that's what it was.
Red's
ridiculous,
cookbook.
But cool. And Orit Bolochnik, I know I said that wrong, and you are welcome. Recorded episodes of the Blacklist Exposed podcast. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. You get a Tom's Dead applause for that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Every week.
Every chance I get. Every chance I get. Well, don't forget our question for this week. What is that Russian website? What is the Russian website? I'm sure somebody will have deciphered that Russian by the time you hear this. We just did not have it done. Unless you did it. Did you do it?
I did it. It said, password, please.
Okay. So what is on the Russian website? All right. Let's get into this week's case profile. Okay. Well, we kick off this episode with Charlie Brewster. I'm sorry, Carl.
Coral.
But if you're an 80s fan, he's Charlie Brewster. That's William Ragsdale. That's from Fright Night. One of my favorite movies of all time. I got so excited.
Fright Night's a great movie. It is a great movie.
I love it. Welcome to... Sorry. So it's a bit of a bird-brained idea of a robbery.
Oh, man, it's going to be one of these days.
Where the Fribourg Confidence, it's a dad joke just for you. The Fribourg Confidence goes directly after Red by stealing the flash drive from last week. They've been planning this for at least over a week, would you say? I mean, so Liz has been gone for at least a couple weeks at this point.
I would agree.
Okay. So she's apparently got quite the setup going already.
Well, yeah, because she was able to get in touch with the bird-brained bank robbers, and then we have Essie Jackson actually on the ground kind of manipulating all of the behind-the-scenes stuff of everything that's currently going on. So we don't even know where Liz is. She could be in the country. She could be out of the country. I think this is a really cool setup on how things are going.
Were you surprised that you don't see Liz at all? Like but she's still present in the episode?
I kind of liked it, actually. I liked the more Liz presence without Liz being the forefront, because it obviously opened up a lot more for a lot of our other characters through the course of this episode. A lot more Cooper, a lot more Park this week, a lot more Aram this week too. So I think that it was interesting to be able to see some other characters for a little bit, but still feel the presence of Liz, because it's still a Liz and Red, relationship show at the end of the day.
Hang on. A lot more Park. She literally had like 3 more lines.
Well, it was more than like good bod or whatever she said the other week.
That's hot.
So technically, that's hot. That's right. So it is a lot. It is a lot more in relation and percentage wise.
Sure.
I mean, it is Super Bowl weekend. If you think about it, the place kicker actually makes the most money per minutes played. So it's kind of like that concept.
I'm sure she's doing great for the amount of, per minute. She's doing fantastic. Good for her. Abraham Moores is an old thief contact of Red's. His writing seemed to be on the note Red got, which feels like such a stretch, that Red and his friends made that connection. Do you agree with me on that, at least? Like, that seems like a stretch.
No, I think you can definitely do the handwriting decipheration to find out who it is. Decipheration is a new word that I just made up.
I don't think that's a word at all.
But I think you can actually do that, where you could match up stuff and find out who wrote something. I mean, that's forensics, right?
No, you can do it. It just seemed odd that they would have that at his disposal, but he's got everything else. I guess it makes sense.
Oh, you mean that he's actually got a guy? He's got a cryptographer on his team that can actually decipher it? Okay.
Hey, Hank, can you check those signatures for me? Make sure to match them up. No problem, man. No problem. We got his on file. We got Abraham Moores on file. Just thought that was weird.
I suppose after 8 seasons and not seeing this guy previously, because we've seen Chuck and Hetty and Morgan and Rudiger and everybody else.
I think we've seen Abraham before. I think we've seen him. Frankie Faison, I think he's been on here before.
You think so?
I thought so. I could be wrong. Well,
I'm sure I'm sure Reddit will correct us at some point.
we could IMDb it, but who's got the time?
Right.
So we're going to move on. But it ends up being not Abraham, but his daughter, Jennifer Ann Moores. We'll come back to that. Just hang tight. That name feels important to me. Ultimately, we learned Jennifer was estranged from Abraham, but when he came back into her life, it became obvious that it was either imitation or genetic, but she was a natural thief. And of course, we have now arrived at the parable of the evening, people mimicking the talents, bad as they are, of the nefarious parental figures' choices. I said parental figures. I didn't throw a name on there.
Not mother, not father, just generic parental.
Yeah, just parental. So do you agree that was definitely pretty pointed?
Yeah. I mean, the whole story was like, I left her life. I didn't want her to be like me. I didn't want her to have, this thiefdom concept. But when I came back into her life, sure enough, she's just like me. So there is a parallel line drawn between his side of the apartment and Abraham's side of the apartment for sure.
I think it's a brilliant red herring. That's what I'm going with, to throw you off.
Oh, because everybody keeps looking for the parent relationship. You're saying that this is just there to
just feeding that along. Yep, that's what I think.
Whatever,
100%. Otherwise, it was the most obvious thing I've ever seen. So you choose.
Well, I mean, there's only been like 800 of these parental relationship, parent-daughter concepts on the show for 8 years.
That's why it works. I think it would be a great red herring. I'm going with that. Why not? Why not? Instead of having the same old conversation, why not go that way? Screw it. They're trying to throw you off. He's actually a third step cousin. That's what he is. That's how he's connected. Can't prove me wrong.
I can't. I'm more interested to hear about why you think Jennifer Ann Moores is important.
I'll come back to it. That was something I picked up on. I don't even think you did. So,
I don't think I did. I'm interested to see what you think.
All right. Meanwhile, Liz works an angle to get the freelancer free, which also seems a stretch even for TV purposes that Liz would do that. Look, I got to be honest with you. Okay. I want to clarify. The freelancer, assassinates his targets by using large-scale disasters. And if you go back to the pilot, Red stated that the Freelancer has killed over 3,000 innocent people in his accidents. Innocent people in his accidents. Red compares his scale of carnage to terrorist organizations and governments.
Technically, it would be the second episode, but who's counting?
No, it was the pilot.
No, the pilot was Ronco Zamani. The Freelancer was number 2.
You're right. Okay.
Florio
All right,
Campo.
number 2. Sorry.
With the choo-choo train. Remember, the choo-choo train goes off the tracks.
Whatever episode it was, one of you knows. I'm not convinced I know anything anymore at this point. It's been a long week. But regardless of where you see Liz at in terms of the series, I know there's a lot of people that are not a fan of what she's doing now because they only like her if she's going to be with Red. They only want that relationship. They don't want this Liz versus Red because Red's their character. So anybody going against Red is the bad guy in their eyes. Therefore, Liz is a bad guy. Fine. That's fine. Whatever you think of her, that feels like a huge character stretch for me. That feels like a huge character stretch that she would take the chance of getting that guy out of jail.
Yeah, and I didn't really think about it that much.
Innocent people. That's not the Liz that we know. He's killed 3,000 innocent people. And I'm sure she'll make sure that he still pays for his crimes and whatnot. But it's the concept that while he's out, he could hurt someone else that's innocent. And that to me feels like a stretch for Liz.
Because you're saying that by him being out, he could have the nefariousness to do what he used to do rather than just truly being in his pocket. But at the same time, she's now in control of his life, basically, right? You call this number, you got caught in the rain, the whole thing that she was talking about. And then if he slips up or does something wrong, there's nothing to say that Liz can't just shove his ass right back in jail either. She's got.
The only person in that room was Skip and him. So to me, I don't know. I feel like it's all right. You want to make her go for the big plays, quick and easy. Okay, fine. I get that. I just think this is I haven't seen what the plan is yet either. So obviously I'm speaking out of turn. But as I see it currently, it feels like a real character stretch for me.
Yeah, I can see how you would think that, especially because this person is a big bad. Killed lots of people versus Vanessa Cruz is on the run, but she could get like a hitman like Vanessa Cruz, where it's like a one-time job kind of thing versus 3,000 innocent people per attack.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it just feels like a little bit of a character stretch. It's just me. Do you have any idea of what the plan might be? And you're right, it was episode number 2, and I apologize. I don't know why I said pilot. But I did verify that. Nobody needs to Google it.
So you took the time to IMDb that, but you didn't take the time to IMDb the other thing? I see how it is.
Yeah. Well, that was important. Because that was about me being correct.
Got it. It's only a matter when it's about you. I totally see how this relationship has changed.
Yep. It hasn't changed. It's the same.
No, I think the plan would just be that he has the ability to take out Red, and you're never going to get close enough to Red to be able to do it one-on-one. So if you were going to try to kill Red, it would be like in a crowded situation where he's traveling or in a crowd or with somebody. And then this would be where his skills would come in because that's what the Freelancer does.
She'd never do that. Innocent people, I can't see. Liz, the character they built up for 8 years.
She just blew up Wrestler, an innocent person. She could have taken out half a hospital wing.
No, that was a concentrated blast. They said that in the episode. Concentrated was only from the vicinity of the hotel room. So yes, it could have killed Wrestler, but it wouldn't have killed, the whole hospital. It just would have been whoever was in that room. Could have been a doctor. Yes, that's an innocent or 2, not 3,000. You know what I'm saying? It's a big leap for me.
The Freelancer's out of practice. He's been in jail for 7 years. He might only take out 100 in his first attempt.
So what did you think of this episode of the Blacklist?
I felt like it was very traditional Blacklist. I thought it was a really funky opening with a real funky song. And then you go right into
I love that song.
The song's really good.
Opening.
The Red says, here's what's going on.
He wants to be a James Bond.
You can let me finish. No, the Cooper doing, Red doing his thing, then calls Cooper. Cooper then does the whole, here's what we got to go catch and everything. I actually thought that the Freelancer was going to get sprung because Red wanted him out to go hunt down Liz. So I actually got the rope-a-dope this week because Liz ended up obviously being the one that wanted him out, not Red. So I say kudos to Schechter because he got me. I thought for sure Red was the one getting him out. And I did love the Abraham and the daughter angle and that whole concept of like the family, not because of the parallelism or anything, but I just kind of like the story and the concept of here's this old friend of Red's, and now Liz is using the next generation of the criminals that Red was buddies with when they were criminals. So I kind of like that concept of like maybe Rudiger's daughter comes into play, or or Chuck's son comes into play down the line. I kind of like that angle. It's fun.
I'm supposed to let you finish, so I'm making sure that did you finish?
I'm done. I yield the floor.
Okay. I do want to clarify, just for your sake, no, Frankie Faison has not been on a previous episode. This was his first episode.
I'm waiting for you to like respond to me, and you're like still looking up IMDb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said you're gonna let me finish, and I'm like, well, this is gonna be a minute, so I'm like, I got time. I got time.
True that.
I also did my taxes too,
well
so I got that done.
Well played.
I will say, okay, so here's the thing. You and I both talked about this. I'm looking forward to when it's just, Blacklister here every week, going back to the kind of the old thing where it was just a minor thing. Like it was more like the bookends of what Red was looking for. And the majority of the episode was the Blacklist of the week. And I feel like, and I'm not saying I don't like it. Okay. It's real hard to explain this, I guess, without sounding negative, because I'm trying not to sound negative. I don't mean it negative. It's more constructive. I feel like there's too much Red versus Elizabeth right now and not enough. I feel like this was trying to be a Blacklister episode, but there was still too much Red versus Elizabeth. And that was everything. And I just feel like that's been too much, maybe. I don't know. I don't really know how I want to say it. I was hoping, first episode with Liz on the run, or Liz on the flying around in the jet, we might get an actual Blacklister that didn't have anything to do with Liz just yet. So I could get my mind out of it and then maybe get a few surprises that way, I guess, instead of kind of what I expected.
See, and I thought this was actually exactly what you wanted, with it being just a Blacklister episode with the bookends, because you have the bookend of the flash drive from the last episode in the front, and then you have the Russian website of what's on the flash drive at the end. And yeah, it had the Liz and Red consternation, fight, tension throughout the entire episode. But I think that has to be there because this is the first episode we haven't seen Liz in a long time, right? Since season 3. So you have to have her, you have to like have her presence there and wean her off because it's the natural flow of the story.
Sure.
The whole arc of the season is Red versus Liz. It's going to be there in the background. But if you take just that concept out of the air for a minute and just look at the episode as a whole, it was very much a standard bookend front, bookend back, book front, book back, mixed bookends, I guess. And then you have the middle, which was truly just Red and Abraham and trying to hunt down the bad guys with Task Force. And I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way. I saw it all Red versus Liz the whole episode. I mean, even the Blacklister was connected and everything was paralleled to Red and Liz. I mean, it just felt like it was very, and I get it, first one after, but even the agents are kind of having the similar conversation that they had the previous week.
But I think they kind of transitioned that though, right? They transitioned it with the Rom's conversation where she's really gone, isn't she? So like next week can be what you're looking for, probably.
I hope so. I'm only saying my concern going forward. I just don't want that to be like every week. Are we still debating? Because she shouldn't be an agent anymore. At some point, you got to be a Fed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And you can't just keep doing this. Like that's getting ridiculous.
100%.
So it seemed like, yes, they wrapped that up. So they wrapped that portion of it up. They did acknowledge that. And like I said, I wasn't trying to say it as a negative. I know it comes across that way because anytime you say anything that isn't glowing, it's seen as negative, but it's just honest criticism. That's all. We'll see what happens going forward. Let's get into characters. I think we talked about a lot of it, but we still have some stuff to talk about.
So you would say, like on a scale of 1 to 10, you would say this episode is a 5 for you? Or are you lower than a 5?
I'm not giving a number.
Well, that's kind of what we do here. There's like 200 of them that we've been talking about for 8 years.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy this episode that much, but that's the tricky thing is I don't think it's a bad episode. It's really it's tricky in that respect. If you took this episode and you didn't watch the few before it, I think it's just, a regular Blacklist episode. It's not that different. But I feel like because of the 4 that came before it, I feel like it was very repetitive of what I'd just seen. So it didn't feel like anything that I didn't just watch. That makes sense.
So basically you're saying that the mythology is tiresome for you. So
Well,
anything that's tied to anything tied to the mythology kind of makes it a little bit more like,
Not so much that. I just feel like, I mean, the flash drive, got the flash drive, lost the flash drive. Somebody else got the flash drive. I mean, we're just doing that bait and switch thing. And, we did get some movement because Cooper has it, and I really can't put my finger on it. It just felt like it didn't feel much different than the episode I previously watched.
I mean, it didn't feel much different than the back half of season 6 where the kid had the flash drive, then the dog ate it and then pooped it up. And then all of a sudden that's a presidential takedown on the flash drive kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe
that's what it is. It's just, it feels like we've done this story like just recently.
Maybe it's because I'm tired of flash drives in TV shows. I feel like the flash drive gets a little too much attention. Granted, I use flash drive all the time, literally all the time. So I know it's useful.
I don't use flash drives. I use SD cards still.
Wow, that is old school.
I know. I roll like that. More secure.
Well, let's get into characters.
Yeah, music for the beginning of the song at the start of the episode where we had the birds attack. We hear James Bond by Iggy Pop. There's a cool band. I'm sorry. There is a cool bed in the middle called Hands Up that plays when Aram tries to be James Bond himself at the coffee shop. And then we close out the episode with Diviner by Hayden Thorpe as Cooper and the U.S. government are hacked by the Russians for sticking a thumb drive into a computer. It is a number 1 no rope.
Say what? What do you mean?
Like, you never pick up a flash drive from somewhere foreign and put it in a computer.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Not even if it's from your wife or your boss. You never stick a flash drive in a computer that you did not actually create yourself. This number 1 information security hack.
Cooper's a noob. He's a noob.
He's like, oh man, what is this? Russian Etsy?
Russian Etsy.
Switch tabs. I'm actually working, Panda Baker. Sorry.
There was way more words than password, please. There's got to be something else there.
Yeah, it was like Russian Department of Defense probably is what's in the background, and then it's like password, please. Because we know what the white box is for.
Okay, that's good. Because I gave Troy that task. I'm like, hey, somebody should look that up before we start. And obviously, I'm too busy.
Obviously, I didn't care because they'll just tell us at the start of next week.
Yep, exactly. Somebody on Instagram has already got this thing laid out. I guarantee it.
Well, if you like the music, you can get them on the playlist, both Apple Music and Spotify. We got links to those over on the website at theblacklistexposed.com.
All right. Well, we've got our characters. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to zip through a couple of them because they didn't do anything. Park, Wrestler, and Dembe all did a whole bunch of exposition primarily this week. Though Wrestler does notice the coffee cup switch, which I think we all did, right? I mean, as soon as they put the coffee cup there, you're like, well, that's where it's going, right?
I noticed it when you saw the guy just digging in the garbage before the scene even started. I was like, oh, that's the guy that's going to pick it up and take it away.
And also Carolyn Gibbons, I believe was the right name, which is one of Keen's aliases. Wrestler noticed that too.
Like that part was cool, right? Like, hey, Wrestler, you can like remember all the different names you have for your girlfriend, but you can't see the coffee cup switch. Like, come on.
I did notice. I mean, they did a close up on his gun where he kind of lowered it. You could tell like he just didn't want to. I think he's kind of enjoying Red worrying a little bit. Red sweating this out.
I think so too. I think he's like, I'm going to help Keen because it also makes Red weaker. And I still have that 5 years before this whole thing started that I'm pissed about.
I wouldn't call it helping him. I don't think he's working extra to catch her. You know what I mean? I feel like he's not going to do anything that's illegal or anything, but he's not going to go the extra mile as a Boy Scout like he normally would. Because that was a pretty obvious cue that, I mean, I could do that, but
so by not working to catch her, is that not the same thing as helping her?
It's like lying by omission.
I was hoping you were going to go there.
So you tell me. You tell me, Troy. Is it? Is it? You tell me.
I think we've beat that one to death before.
Careful with your answer. All right. S.E. Jackson. Can I say Miss Jackson if you're nasty? I hope so, because I just did. Is still helping Liz. Apparently, she's the eyes on the ground.
And I'm surprised she got as close as she did to the FBI, because we were debating that last week. Like, would she just disappear, or would she actually keep tabs on the operation? So I'm glad that she's in the mix. I like the character. I do.
I do too. I think she's a lot of fun. So looking forward to seeing what she's doing. And apparently, she's not as worried about getting busted. She's going to stick it out.
Well, she's worried. She didn't actually do the drop herself. She had the guy come and pick up the coffee cup for her. So
I think she'd be spotted. She's known.
Well, she was spotted, right? Because Wrestler saw her drive away in the car.
Right. But I mean, if she went to get the cup, I mean, that would be an obvious tell. She couldn't go get that. That's too close.
True.
Ram gets a little bit more to do. He gets to do that smooth bug planting operation that I think was well handled. He fumbled quite genuinely. He's a good agent.
And I would say that this is actually a really good scene, because at first when he knocked over whatever it was, the sugar packets, I thought he was going to put the bug in the sugar packets.
So did I.
And then it was like, oh no, and he just stuck it underneath the table. That's nice. That's a sleight of hand. I like it.
He smacked it like it owed him money.
It's like, bam.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, he also says it's weird we're still calling her Agent Keen. It's weird we're still calling her. Yes, it is. Because she shouldn't be an agent anymore. She's basically red light. She is light red. What's the best one? Diet red? I don't know. But she's one of those.
That's Tab.
She's Tab. There you go. She's Tab.
It's the one
Agent
thing.
Tab.
It's one thing some people still drink, but other people really just don't like.
Do they still make that?
I'm sure it's still out there.
It's got to be expired. It's got to be. Don't drink it.
It was expired when you drank it the first time.
That is not good for you. It is not. All right. Well, she really is gone. That's something that Aram points out, which I guess I'm glad that they acknowledged it again.
So does that make it official? We think she's going to be not on the show for a while, or what do you think that line means?
No, I think she'll pop up at some point. I feel like this was the first, like you said, the first episode. She can't be there, so it makes sense that she won't be in the vicinity. So, she'll probably pop up at some point.
I do hope we get like a standalone Liz episode, though, like her point of view from the other side of the angle kind of thing.
Yeah. So you know what I would like? I would actually like if she just starts building this huge shadow of an empire. Because I said this before. Go back. One of our listeners actually quoted me on Facebook from an episode when we did Ruin, where I want her to get so dark she actually scares Red. That's what I want. I don't want her to kill innocent people, though, so be clear. But I want her to go so dark she actually scares Red. And he actually looked like he was a little worried that she was busting Freelancer out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
He's unsettled.
Hey, Red, you know why you're coughing up blood? It's because of the glass into ice chips that you're sucking on.
I would love to see Liz go full ruin. I really would. I really want him to sweat. I want to see Red actually scared. Just legitimately scared. Because he did kind of create this. And I know he doesn't admit it, but we'll talk about that in a second.
I mean, he looked big and puffed up against Sikorsky last week. Do you think he felt a little scared of Sikorsky as well?
No, he seemed fearful for Liz in that moment, because of the "for now" statement. But
True.
you could tell when he was talking about her getting out the Freelancer and that she did that intentionally, and he said that he was unsettled, that he played it very much like he's supposed to be afraid to some degree.
Got it.
Yeah. Spader doesn't accidentally seem fearful. All right. Cooper gets a lot more to do this week. He and Panna Baker, we've talked about maybe they'll get together someday. They're being very, very friendly. But they have to come to grips with Keen's situation. And a judge is very disgusted by the deal that they have in place, which I get. But the whole setup is that Freelancer, who is the second episode Blacklister, is basically brought up. He's brought up on charges, and if Elizabeth Keen isn't there to represent herself, then they're going to turn him out on bail because they have to find more evidence because all the evidence is in respect to Red is compromised, which I wanted to clarify. I agree with that. Actually, I do agree that does become when you have a party who provides information and their defense, you're supposed to be given every opportunity to confront your accuser and also defend yourself. If someone drops that kind of knowledge and that's what they find the information from, and that person has a personal stake, there's actually some legal truth there that you should be able to confront the person and defend yourself. And if you can't, it's not quite fair. And that could apply to every Blacklister, really.
So if I were to tell something to the police about, say, Rory, and I got that information from you because you and I have a personal relationship, then technically Rory could still walk.
Not so much that. If you could, it's more about my character. So, okay, don't be a dick.
Well, I was going to say, we know that's in the toilet.
If I have a nefarious or untrustworthy character, which I'm not untrustworthy, I'm honest. If I have an untrustworthy character, then that would be something that you could call into question on the stand during your trial. And that could affect the evidence that you got from me.
Got it.
Yeah. Because that matters. I mean, just like you can cross-examine a witness, that's what that's there for. So they can discredit a witness. And if Red is the one providing most of the information, that seems plausible that they would want to discredit him. But I think it's a stretch because they had tons of they caught him in the act. If I remember right. It's been a while since I saw it, but
I also thought that, and maybe this is me just not following the episode too closely, because I was kind of tired as well, but I thought that they were supposed to talk about getting him a new trial, not just get out altogether.
Yeah, so he was getting a new trial. He's out on bail.
Got it. Okay.
They had to get enough evidence to proceed with trial. I was actually surprised 8 years later, he still hasn't been on trial. That's weird.
Well, it is the federal government. You put him in a hole somewhere, you never get seen again.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. That's true. Okay, well, it's obvious Liz still holds care for Cooper, as he's the one man she trusts more than any other, because she didn't drop that flash drive in Rustler's coffee cup. She dropped it in Cooper's, which means he's the one, in my opinion, the one she trusts the most to do the right thing. The safe house that Red and Cooper both get to leads Cooper to that clue because, she, like I said, she dropped it in her hand. So we didn't have time to decode it like we talked about. We kind of have an idea now because Troy looked into it. So it's like Russian defense, something along those lines. But any idea where this site is going to lead to? Do you have any theories, anything, where this information is actually going to be?
I'm sure it's probably something along the lines of Russian sleeper agents, like the Blacklist Redemption episode, Independence USA, where they were training people to be Americans.
Yeah,
Russian
absolutely.
sleeping Americans. I bet you it's that. It's like it's Russian agents that are trained Americans undercover in the U.S.
And they might directly affect Liz.
It could.
Red.
Who were your parents, Liz? Who were they?
Who does number 2 work for? Okay. Lastly, Red. Liz continues to go after Red. We talked about that hardcore. He's back to his cold as ice self. I mean, he's not looking all puppy dog-eyed and everything else. Looking, oh, Liz, let's talk. He's very cold in this episode. Would you agree?
I also feel he's much more, he's more living in this episode, where his disease seemed like he's been a little bit sickly and a little slower. This seemed like he was back to like season 3, season 4 type Red.
He's on drugs, man.
Like the adrenaline of having to catch Liz has kind of picked him up a little bit.
Maybe he is on drugs. Maybe he's on that crank.
Maybe.
I'd love to see him in like an episode like Jason Statham in Crank, where Spader's just running around town. Woo! I would love to see that. That would be fun. All right, I'm just talking out of my ass at this point. Okay, so he's obsessed with catching Keen, allegedly for her own good. Everybody wants to do everything for her own good. And we've officially got Red versus the task force to see who gets to her first. And I think that'll probably be a through line for the rest of the season, or at least a big portion of it. Agree?
Or at least the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're all responsible for the choices we've made. She made hers. She's responsible for them, not me. I will say once again,
you are delusional.
I know everybody loves Red. I'm going to beat this into the ground. He carries zero responsibility for this. Zero. None. He acts like he can't even fathom or understand why she would be targeting him. And I can't for the life of me understand the logic there.
Well, let me explain the logic to you, because
ridiculous.
He said, it's my business. If you dig into my business, you will cause yourself harm. Not by me, but because of all the other things that I'm connected to. So if you want to go dig stuff up, that's your choice, but you have to be willing to pay the consequences. And that's basically what he's saying in this line. It's saying, it's not my fault. I get to keep my secrets. They're my secrets. She went digging. She brought this on herself. That's his point of view.
But you agree she had reasons to dig.
I would agree that he could have avoided this stuff because he didn't have a plan all along, that he could have said, well, here, let me bring you into the inner circle.
Hey, she asked him to leave several times. Get out of my life. He never left. That's on him. So yes, he has responsibility. I'm sick of the debate. It's not a debate. He has responsibility. Nobody can convince me otherwise that he has no responsibility. I think it's ridiculous. But it makes him kind of feel like, as much as people say he's so warm and cuddly and almost like a grandpa or something, he's kind of a sociopath. Agreed? Yes? No?
Well, isn't any criminal a sociopath in a way?
Not necessarily. There's some lovely people that commit crimes.
We're recording, so we'll just keep it there.
I grew up in the projects. I knew a lot of good guys that just broke the law, you know?
Yeah, I speed with the best of them.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, but I've said it before. Go listen to last week's episode, the week before that, or whatever, and it'll feel like you're listening to the same podcast, just like I felt like when I was watching this. Okay. Also, Red is a little, like I said earlier, scared that she sprung the Freelancer. We both agreed we don't know what's going to come, but you still don't really have any idea of what the plan is. I don't have an idea what the plan is, but we can both agree that he is not really locked down, which means he could cause damage, which is not good for the character of Liz, because if he hurts any innocent people,
it's on her.
It's on her.
Kind of like Red. The parallelisms abound.
I know. They're everywhere. Okay, so here's where the connections come in, okay? Now, the daughter's name was Jennifer Ann Moores. That was her name. I think there's a couple connections. One, Jennifer, interesting choice, since that's the girl that's not really his daughter, stepdaughter, whatever.
Well, it's Raymond Reddington's daughter. It's not Red's daughter.
Right, but he was fake married to Naomi or whatever, so I was just trying to...
Raymond Reddington was married to Naomi.
Right. She went along with it. She's in an episode where she pretended like she used to be married to him. So she pretended she went along with it. That's all I'm saying. I understand the law. I understand the rules. Yes, that woman is not his daughter. I'm just saying that connection is there with the name.
I'm just saying it out loud for other people that still think that.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you're confusing me, and now I get what you were trying to do. Okay, makes sense. So that's the first thing where I thought, oh, okay. I mean, you're doing these parallels, and you pick a name that happens to be not Liz, but the other daughter that's not his daughter. Okay, interesting. And then he meets a new friend, Birdwatcher, name Ann. So that happens to be the middle name of Jennifer Ann Moores. Could it be her mom? Could it be? So what do you think this means? Both this woman being there, him meeting her, and the name. Could it mean anything? Is it romantic? Another setup from Liz? That's kind of what I meant by I felt like there's a little bit of a connection there.
No, I think you were spot on. I didn't pick that up, but I really like that because I totally did not pick up on that. Because when he's like, "You look familiar. Do I know you?" I'm thinking in my head, okay, well, they just said Cape May Warbler, so that means that this Ann person was probably at Cape May. And then was he there? Was Katarina there? Like, what does this all go? Like, and all of a sudden I'm like, total John Nashing the whole thing. And then I was like, no, it's got to be simpler than that. He's just forgetting because he's sick that he saw Ann earlier in the episode when she was talking to whatever bird it was that she was talking to. And he's just forgetting that he happened to see her earlier, when they were talking with the handwriting guy. But I really like where you went with this in that it's actually Jennifer's mom. I didn't think of that.
Makes sense.
That's a cool pickup.
Hey, every once in a while I get one.
You're probably right. The simplest answer must be the truth.
That would be the first time you've ever accepted that the simplest answer is the truth. Literally, the first time ever. Because you're more like, you know what? Maybe she's actually an alien. I mean, maybe she came down and she's from outer space. Huh?
Maybe she's actually a bird herself that's able to transform her appearance.
If anybody would try to make that argument, it would be you. All right, Liz Keene is nowhere to be seen, but she is felt.
Insert Star Wars, I feel your presence jokes here.
Are you curious to see what ends up happening with Liz? I mean, we're kind of hearing that she's building this empire, but it seems like she's spending all her money to go after Red. She's not spending any to actually become a criminal mastermind. Do you think she's going to start doing the actual criminal part? Because they left all the money in Red's box. They didn't take any of the money, just the flash drive.
See, this is how you act as a criminal. You get other people to do your work for you. They get busted. You make more money. End of conversation. She's
Understood
smart.
that.
She gets it. She's a profiler. She knows how criminal minds work, supposedly.
But didn't take the money. There was a lot of money in that safety deposit box. They didn't take it.
Well, if you're not taking the money, it's because you're focused on, how much time do I have to get out of this place? Am I on camera?
Personal. It's a personal vendetta. Got to
Yeah.
make sure that's known.
Exactly. I got to leave the note behind.
Well, yeah, so they can analyze the handwriting
Well, I mean,
with their crack handwriting team. Sorry.
if you think
Just
about it
trying to
logically,
picture.
though,
I want to picture like the Godfather. I want to make it an offer you can't refuse.
she doesn't want to stick it to
I
Red.
need you to come on staff. I need a handwriting guy. You know what I mean? So you got to come do that for me. All right. So you can't refuse this. This is a great job. Great opportunity.
I don't think she wants to stick it to Red. I think that she's just like, this is the most important thing to you. Therefore, I will take the most important thing from you and let you know that I took it. It's not
And give
about
it to
bankrupting
Cooper.
Red and taking the whole empire over. That's not what she's in for it for.
Nope. And give it to Cooper so he can figure out what's really on it.
Ding, ding.
I like that. I did like that. Okay, well, that's going to do it for this portion. We've got more episode. We want to take a quick second to say thank you to those of you that are supporting the show by going to Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Special big thanks to our honorary blacklister, Patricia. Also, special shout out to our task force members, Judy and Sharon, Rory, and welcome Karen, now an official task force member. Welcome Karen. And I don't care what anyone says. I love the name Karen. I get really annoyed when people use that to say something negative. My mom's name is Karen. It's a beautiful name.
I see the parallelisms.
All of those people receive cool gifts from us, and you can get a cool gift as well for donating at the $20 level or higher. You want a cool t-shirt or coffee mug? Come on, you do. You don't have to stay at the $20 level forever, just a few months to get the cool gifts.
And some changes, as we mentioned, $5 patrons get the podcast first before anybody else. So make sure you head over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Throw your $5 in the hat and you get your own special podcast feed just for you. And we will be sure to talk more on this very podcast about all of your feedback coming up right after Red's Rhetoric, right after this.
You obviously love podcasts, but are you also a fan of movies and television? Do you want to listen to a show that reviews entertainment honestly and casts pretentiousness to the wind? That debates both film and TV topics in a fun, good-spirited way, while still getting to the heart of why we all love them so much? Then don't miss the award-winning weekly podcast, The Hollywood Outsider, now available on your favorite podcast app or at thehollywoodoutsider.com.
Hey, this is Amir. I play Aram on The Blacklist, and you are listening to The Blacklist Exposed.
Welcome to Red's Rhetoric, that part of the show where we listen to wise words from Raymond Reddington. Then each week you get to vote for your favorite in our weekly web poll inside each episode post on the website, theblacklistexposed.com. This week our first story comes when Red talks about due respect.
Carl, I entrusted you with my belongings because I believed that you could keep them safe. Clearly, I overestimated your abilities.
Yes, but with all due respect.
With all due respect, what an absurd little qualifier. Why do people insist on stating their deference right before undercutting it with a mildly disrespectful provocation?
Whoever robbed you knew where to look, and they didn't learn it from me. So, with all due respect, if there was a failure of security, it wasn't on my end.
Thank you, Carl. Now, with all due respect, your cologne is beginning to make my eyes water.
Our second comes when Red shares a story about a time he was captured.
I was once held captive by the Shining Path. 3 months of unrelenting heat and humidity in the Peruvian jungle, mixed with the occasional round of electroshock. All in all, it was a rather unpleasant experience. But for my cellmate, a delightfully monkish, bookish, Polish aid worker who was also inexplicably something of a handwriting expert. While fending off the daily onslaught of rhinoceros beetles, he would hold forth on why a child's handwriting is often nearly identical to that of at least one, if not a little of both, of his or her parents' handwriting. Apparently, the similarity isn't genetic at all, just subconscious imitation.
Which was your favorite this week? With all due respect, you should vote for red cologne. But I guess if you have a keen eye for the written word, vote hashtag red handwriting.
Special Agent Intel from the Mailbag. Rob Bolson, what is Aaron talking about regarding 16 Ounces episode? Liz literally tried to blow up a hospital floor. She did not. She did not. They very clearly said it was a concentrated blast that would have just covered that one room. I'm just clarifying. She did not see when she pressed the button if anyone was in the room or near it. That part's true. You had no idea if it would knock out electricity and kill others on life-saving equipment in the hospital. I do, because concentrated blasts. See earlier. You could easily have killed hospital employees along with cops and FBI she knew was there. Sorry, but as bad as Red is, he has never once been willing to kill random civilians for a target. What are you talking about? You can't give Liz a pass because Red is a bad guy? Your rant was way off. Everything you complain about Red, Liz has become a worse version. You can't give Liz a pass because you say Red caused it. Because then what if something causes Red to be like this? You willing to give him a pass? First off, I'm not giving her a pass. I never gave her a pass. I didn't say, she's a good old criminal. I'm saying everything that she has done to Red caused. He has some responsibility and culpability in that. That's what I said. And that's what I stand by.
All right.
Still do.
I just like that they all like talking to you and they just leave me alone, that I can get a nap in once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, but seriously, go back and listen. The concentrated blast, that was a big portion of it.
Well, Kimberly Covera said, Thibet Akblick. First Samar, now Liz. I get it. Throw the Keeler shippers a bone. Poor Aram. When he asked if Liz had been to the wrestler's apartment, it was like a guy finding out his best mate had shagged his sister. What happened to bros before hoes? And Red knows what's up. Whatever. Joni loved Chachi for 2 seasons, and Sam and Diane crashed and burned. I'll be patient.
Wow. Well, I mean, I don't think Aram and Russ were ever that close anyway, right?
I think Aram and Wrestler are buds.
They're buds, but not like bros before hoes. But I mean, that's just, I just don't.
No, they're just bros share hoes.
Exactly. Wow. I'm not touching that one. All right. Steve M. wanted to drop in a quick note to say that I love the Blacklist Exposed podcast. Troy and Aaron are hilarious, but also very balanced in their analysis. Enjoy hearing their analysis, opinions, and theories. I do wonder if Reddington is related to Alexander Kirk. Kirk had a rare blood disorder, which was supposed to be fatal and hereditary, passed from father to son. It could explain his mystery illness and also what he was depending on Spalding Stark to deliver, a cure, since Dr. Sonia Bloom had vanished with Kirk. I think this theory is floated around, but it is an interesting one. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thanks again for the awesome podcast. Thank you so much for that. Red. I should just call you Red. Troy, you have any thoughts on that? You're the one that remembers minute detail.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Steve, for that. That's very kind. Second of all, I think it was Julie on YouTube. One of the YouTube comments was saying, isn't it interesting that Alexander Kirk and Dominic have the same name of Rostova, or Rostov, without the A on the end, for the Russian side of things. And I was like, that is weird. So maybe your brother theory is actually true in some ways, potentially the uncle theory.
You never know.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's just a theory, and I'm fluid. I'll go with anything.
But I think this isn't necessarily like a Rostov thing, or Alexander Kirk and Red have to be related, because I think whatever this illness is that ran through Alexander Kirk's family could also run through Red's family, depending on what part of Russia they had grown up in, because maybe it was linked to their environment potentially.
I like it.
But the same illness could be the same illness. I totally agree with that. All right, well, James Dean wrote in and said, hey, Troy and Aaron, I know y'all see the show before most of the fans, so I would assume that y'all just answer the questions from the feedback at the end of the show. But I understand y'all cannot answer everyone, but I wanted to let you know that I am Team Liz all the way. She only had to go to Dom's house. There was plenty of explosion left in the basement at Dom's, or she could have just shot him face to face, point blank. but then the show would have been over. I will bet each one of you $1 that there will be a season 10.
After last week's renewal, I will not take that bet.
Yeah. I've been on the wrong side of that bet for 3 years now.
Yeah, will not take that bet.
I'm doing the short sale at this point.
Thanks, James. He's a long time listener.
Long time listener.
Marshall Rick. Hey, guys, I just heard your podcast for 8.3 and have not yet seen 8.4. You're a little ahead of the game. Or behind the game. That's what I meant. So it's possible some of what I'm saying is going to be invalidated. Add me to the list of those who think Katerina is alive, but I also think the character portrayed by Layla Robbins is the real Katerina. Huh. I think her death was faked, and I think that whole bit with her leaving the phone on so Liz could hear the message was part of some elaborate plan cooked up by Red that we don't yet understand. I think it is significant that when Red tried to kill Kaplan, he shot her in the head, which is normally the way you would do a kill shot to assure a person is really dead. Katerina was shot in the chest, which makes me think the shot was faked. It's also significant that we never saw Katerina's face when the body was disposed of. That is true. I know you can argue that they didn't show the face because they couldn't get Layla for one more episode, but I don't buy that. I think the body was switched and Kat is still alive. I do believe Kaplan is alive as well. It is very significant that Kate's body was never shown after she jumped into that water, and I wouldn't be surprised if she returns at some point. One last point. Am I alone in being secretly disappointed that the show was apparently renewed for one more season? I was really kind of hoping that this would be the last season when we finally get some answers to the question about Red's relationship to Liz. I'm not sure I can wait another year and a half for an answer to this. I'm predicting ratings will really tank if we get no real answers this season, which seems more and more likely to be the case.
So let's go back to Katerina is alive because she was switched. It's a dupe. It's a fake. You know whose face we did see, though?
Whose?
Tom's face we saw. So Tom must be dead then in this scenario.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. He's sure. I almost lost my moment. I'm so dead. Oh,
I mean, it is true because the number of times I have seen the comparison of the boots on Layla Robbins in the park versus the snakeskin boots laying on the table in the next episode. I just keep going like, those boots do not look the same.
I mean, but I think the reason why you assume she's really dead is because they faked her death once before already.
That's where I land. You can't pull that off twice.
And Dembe, well, no, I mean, if that statement still holds if he says you saw it in that perspective.
Right. Dembe thinks that the mother's dead. Dembe was there at the shooting. Dembe was there at the cleanup.
I suppose it's possible. It's we've had a lot of characters die and come back. So anything's possible, I would say at this point. I would be putting it under the category of extremely unlikely. I'm assuming she's dead because it would kind of make, well, two things. It'd make Liz look foolish and it'd make us feel foolish. And not in the cool, like, oh, cool surprise. We'd be like, what?
It's like, seriously? What? Again?
Yeah. I feel like that would be a stretch storytelling wise.
Yeah. And we can't even use the old mantra where we said, hey, if you see them in a body bag, they're dead because the Blacklist ruined that one when Liz died in season 3.
Yeah, that's true. Good thoughts though. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Good thoughts.
So disappointed in the renewal though.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be straight up. If I don't get some real answers this year, there's a real concern about where I go next year. You know what I'm saying? It's time for I need something real, something confirmed, not something where here's an answer. And at the very end of the episode, but is it really? None of that. Like something actually confirmed by the end of this year definitely needs to happen. That makes a big difference to me.
Yeah,
huge difference.
Secretly, Aaron told me, so I'm pleading to the writers and anyone else listening, you must answer this year because he said that if he doesn't get answers, he's going to start watching New Amsterdam.
Aaron never said that. Aaron never, ever said that. And it's nothing against the actors.
You're supposed to go with the joke. You're just supposed to go with the joke.
Nope. I don't want anybody to think I hate Ryan Eggold. I don't. I just don't like Tom. I hate Tom. He's fine. I don't like Tom. I'm not going to watch that show, though. I hate doctor shows. My mom's a nurse, man. I spent my whole life around hospitals. I do not want to go back. House was the only one because, he's kind of like me in some ways.
And he's not really a doctor. It's actually a play on Sherlock Holmes.
Extreme play on Sherlock Holmes, although he guesses a lot. Like, really, if you really go back and watch, he really just guesses until he gets it right. Is he really as good as he thinks he is? I don't know. Sherlock Holmes knew stuff.
Says you. It's not like you actually met him face to face.
No, I've never met a fictional character face to face. That's true. All right, well, I think that's going to do it. This is going to conclude this episode of the Blacklist Exposed. So now is the time to recommend the Blacklist to your friend, your enemy, or your neighbor. And when you do, please also recommend they listen to the Blacklist Exposed podcast. All the case profiles can be found at theblacklistexposed.com and everywhere great podcasts can be heard.
For more great Aaron and Troy hijinks, follow us on your favorite social media outlet. I'm at Troy Heinrichs. He's at Aaron Smirks. Together we are at the Blacklist GSM. Talk about the show, the podcast, or whether or not you can decrypt handwriting. Apparently there's job openings.
I obviously can't. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. What's on the Russian website? What's in the box? So to speak.
We'll find out next week, I'm sure.
We will. Everybody take care.
We'll see you. Stay warm. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs. That's at Troy Heinrichs on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.
It's so cold here. I'm still so glad Tom is dead.